You were the first head coach of the team in '98. The first 3 years, obviously, it was a team trying to find its way. You did make the playoffs a couple of times. Take us through those first 3 years as you tried to build a football team here in Grand Rapids.
One of the most satisfying approaches to this team, and I'm not saying this as an excuse, but we weren't given an awful lot. The league didn't give us an expansion draft. We basically were forced to try and just create it through sheer free agency. And then we went through a lot of bodies, and we went through a lot of guys to try and develop a nucleus and a building process. But to be able to celebrate a championship for the 2001 season, in the fourth season that the team had its history, there was a lot of people that came through that provided a base for us, player-wise, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of sweat. And that building process is probably the most satisfying thing for the few that helped us be the building blocks of our team to go through the lean years and then have a chance to experience a championship. So the number one thing that we had going for us was our fan base. And I don't say that tongue-in-cheek, because the community surrounded our team, embraced our team, took us in. And even though we weren't winning a whole lot of games in the first few years, we had great crowds here in Grand Rapids. And it became our number one recruiting tool, because the veteran playing arena football in other cities, maybe a larger city, maybe something with a little more sizzle and spice that you might think a 22, 23-year-old guy would like to live in this market. The bottom line, they want to be appreciated. And our community here gave us that. So when free agency would come around, players would think, well, what about Grand Rapids? You know, when I played up there, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of energy, they're getting better and better. So I think I would be remiss if I didn't talk about how well our fan base did in helping us grow and get better. And because of that, we were able to get some name guys in here in arena football that ultimately led us to a championship. So for all of the players and the sacrifice that helped us get to where we were in 2001, I want to say thanks in tandem for what a great job our community did in supporting the sport.
In 1998, when we didn't have an expansion draft, there was a team that was on the rise, and it was making its move toward the championship of arena football. And Michael Baker and Tony Boyd were with the Albany Firebirds. And they were those veteran players on a team on the cusp of winning a championship that got the great news to come to an expansion team. It speaks volumes about who these guys are. Instead of not reporting, instead of giving us grief on holding out and trying to be retraded somewhere else and do whatever, those gentlemen reported here. And they were warriors for us. They were my building blocks for 3 years and did everything that they needed to on the field. And they never gave me grief about pulling them out of a championship here. And I can promise you, in 1999, when the Albany Firebirds held up their arena trophy and won their first championship, that was a long day and a long night for those guys, because they were here with us and they were betting on the come. They thought, you know, hey, that was my championship and I lost it. So to be able to stand there 2 years later and kick the Nashville Cats' ass. The boss gave me a chance to stay after the end of the 2000 season, but that you two guys got that and you deserved it. So on the building block premise, along with Thomas Bailey, the Killer Bees that gave a receiving duo for us, a little bit of name and some hype in that building process. We talked about a lot of players. Those three guys did an awful lot for us to be where we were and be able to celebrate what we had tonight.
Let's talk about that game on August 19, 2001. Dan, let's ask you first. You brought the team here. This was your baby. This was a big deal to have a national championship game like that. ABC TV, Brent Musburger, all of that at the Van Andel Arena for this football game. What was it like to stand and watch that unfold in your hometown?
Well, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that whole year, because it just seemed like that whole year just built to that point, just as a crescendo all the way through. Once the team gets on a roll, they get on a roll. And the excitement throughout that year, and of course with the football games being, somewhat, few and far between, the excitement for every little game, the importance of every game is so large. And so every game was one other step along that way to get us to that week. And then you come to the playoffs and the team keeps rolling along, and then come into that week, the build up as the TV crews are coming in town and all the activities that go on pre-game was just great to see the town react, see the town, all the fans that the coach was talking about, come out and enjoy their team, for the city to welcome so many outsiders, the media and the like that comes from the national side, and then to get in that arena, packed house, anybody who was there will never forget that, I know, and to see the team then continue on the trajectory that they've been on all year. And then to get through it and to see, to feel the win, there's nothing like that. And when the place erupted at the end, the confetti comes down, and everybody can finally, get a sigh of relief. But going into it, you just had that confidence. I know the team had that confidence. It wasn't cocky. They knew they were good. They knew they could do it, and they were ready to make it happen that day. So as the day went on, as the game went on, their confidence grew, and it just showed, and it was an unbelievable feeling.
I know that the league was a little bit concerned and probably pulling against us, because you're talking about ABC, Len Swan on the sidelines, Brent Musburger, Gary Danielson up in the nest, John Elway coming to town as he was coming into the league for the first time, and just this thought process, are we going to have the championship in Grand Rapids, Michigan? So I always kind of felt that we all had a chip on our shoulder, that people were kind of rooting against us. We were a little necessary evil. Yeah, we did. Dalzell's having a great year, but what are we going to end up with? But what I remember the most about the week is when the Arena Bowl went on sale, we sold it out in 2 hours maybe. I mean, it was really, really quick. So we knew it was going to be a great situation for us. And then when it came to around game day, just the way that the arena looked, the way that it was dressed, to walk into that and have that emotion and that energy going into the building. And of course, when the lineups are read and you get out there and it's time to just play football, you get into a different focus. But gosh, our fans, that whole place was a sea of red and white. Some of those rhino horns were in appropriate places, some of them weren't. There was just a buzz. I remember just looking in the stands and people going, who would put all that on? The game really worked well for us. There were some certain plays. Obviously, Clinton was dynamic, and him and T. Shaw had created a chemistry with themselves. But Demo Odoms and Willis Marshall were giving it to us both ways. Our line group was protecting and getting after the passer. Chris Avery working in multiple fashions to put pressure on them. But the perspective for me on that game, back to the Nashville Cats, if you haven't noticed, I have a little issue with them. But the year before, they beat us up really bad. And when they beat us up bad and embarrassed us and put us out of the playoffs, it was a tough situation, not only after the game, but to go into the hallway and listen to people giving you the business. And it just resounded in my mind. And we beat Indiana in game one, and Clint came over on the sidelines, and we were going to overtime because we were down by one. Truly scored with no time left. Do we kick it and go to overtime? And he looked over at me and let's go for two and win this thing now. And I remember he threw a little go pattern in there to Deion Mitchell, and I couldn't even see it because the DB was all over the top of him. And all I heard was Conseco Fieldhouse go quiet. And I see one guy put his hands up, and we went crazy, and we sounded like a couple of crickets in a whole yard. But I knew we were going to have something there, and Clint obviously brought everything to the table for us in that respect. But we went to Nashville during the regular season, and we beat them like we beat them in the championship game at their yard, at their house. And all of our guys, instead of retaliating with mouth and everything else after the game, we walked off the field like we had unfinished business down the road. So to be able to have them in that game and be able to control it. But there was a lot of really great plays. But we took chances that year in a situation where maybe you take a conservative mindset, and we as a staff made that decision. You have to also understand that Brian Goins was a heck of a field goal kicker. But every and Brian Goins play golf together and they're buddies, but Clinton never wanted Brian on the field, ever. If it was fourth down, Clinton was up and down, Brian, we're going for it. They didn't put him in the -1. But that synergy and that competitiveness, along with the great play. But defensively, we did some things. They showed JoJo Polk picking off a pass, and we ran some crazy, unconventional coverages. But we made people feel like a guy was wide open, and if he hung the ball up there a little bit too long, we made some plays and we had some strips. But to be able to get to the 3-score mark during the course of that game, we all knew in the fourth quarter that we owned them, and we knew that we were going to win the game. But no one ever said anything about it. We stayed. We continue to work and toil, and you just watch that clock milk down, milk down, milk down. And this super long answer to your short question is this. I remember that confetti dropping, and I remember watching everybody surge on that field. I remember having to fight through a sea of people to get to the other side to shake Pat Sperduto's hands and smile that he's not going to get the ring that we wear. And go into the stands with Dan and see all the players celebrating, and you can see some of the pictures down there and all that. And what I say to you is this. On August the 19th, 2001, anytime television has a national champion, anytime there's a Stanley Cup, anytime there's Major League Baseball, anytime there's an NBA championship, I'm right here. I'm back here at the Van Andel. I have that feeling. I get a little bit emotional about it, but that was our moment. And we had it, and we got to share it with this community. And that's what I remember about that game day, is that when anybody wins a championship, we were here, and we got ours. I hate to take center stage here, but I want every player that's here and every staff member that's here to come up here on stage with me right now. Monday Night Football, or Sunday Night Football, or Thursday Night Football, is when they talk about the starting lineups for each team. But I want each one of these players to take the microphone and go down and do it just like they do on Monday Night Football. And I want you to tell them your number, your position, where you went to college, and your name, and then pass it down. And no high schools, just college.
Willis Marshall, number 4, from Detroit, Michigan, played receiver, kick returner, Youngstown State University. Joe Todd, number 9, Mississippi Valley State, my alma mater, from Mississippi, Gulf Coast.
Glenn Dalzell, lucky number 13. Quarterback, it was his number. I took it when I came here. He's a kicker though, so we can take it. Went to East Texas State, ET, the old ET. It's now Texas and Commerce, but it's still old ET to me. And you know what? My last thing to this is bring it back. Bring arena football back to.
Good mic.
Give him a good mic. Eric, use this one. Get that one. Straight.
Eric Hanna, number 8. From Winston State College, of Colorado, and I was a quarterback.
Brian Goins, I went to Northwestern University, now reside in Grand Rapids, and I was number 11 for a temporary time. Place kicker.
Tony Boyd, O-line, D-line, from the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga.
Tristan Moss, number 23, went to Western Michigan University. Defensive specialist on the team, number 23. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Hassan Shamsuddin. I was better known as Shorty. I was number 2, defensive specialist. I went to North Carolina State University. Go Wolfpack! Michael Baker. Michael Baker, number 6. Offensive specialist, wide receiver, linebacker. Sometimes me and Coach Trigg just sit in the back and talk about whatever. I'm a Grand Rapidian, love being here. I'm a state of Georgia guy, but I've been here for 16 years with my wife Jessica, and I enjoy being in Grand Rapids.
I'm Thomas Daly. We're number 5, Auburn University. Like Mike, I'm a Grand Rapidian. Met my wife here, Jacqueline, who's from Grand Rapids, and thanks Coach Trigg for bringing me to Grand Rapids.
My name is Dan Gibbons from Grand Valley State University. Born number 94 and was an offensive and defensive lineman.
Lucas Charnell, I was number 75. My main man, went
went to the University of Southwestern Louisiana, which is now Louisiana Lafayette, the Raging Cajuns. I was the center nose guard and offensive specialist for 6 games. Also a kick returner. I think I had 2
Okay, last but not least, a lot of the front office staff up here, probably too many to say, but you also have to understand that you have a support group and you have a structure that makes everything happen for you. And the relationships that you have to pull the team off are equally as important. So if we could give a warm round of applause to people who talk sports. Very proud of my staff. We don't get anything done without the help of the front office or the great play. And last but not least, I think all of us should get on our feet and thank Dan DeVos for his dedication and love to this city and what he's done for us in the sports community for the last 4 years. On with the show.